Ladies and gentlemen, fight fans all around the world, let's talk some boxing, shall we? I want to talk about some commonly misrepresented words I hear in boxing, terms and words I hear in boxing, not just misrepresented, but sometimes just downright false. One of the things I hear in boxing is they say a boxer loses their killer instinct. What the heck is a killer instinct, okay? Usually when they say they lose their killer instinct, what they're really talking about is the boxer, and credit right now to Showtime Boxing and also HBO Boxing under the Fair Use Act. I'm using this for educational purposes to show you something. That's why I'm showing you these different boxers. Here, this was, I believe it's ABC at the time, or NBC. Alright, now, killer instinct. What is that? Well, they usually use that term to explain that a boxer can finish their opponent once they're hurt. So once the opponent is hurt, the boxer, he will finish his opponent and knock him out. All right. So that's what they mean by killer instinct. Usually, it's not it's not really like the person actually can kill you and they have the instinct to kill you. What really basically happens is, I guess, every boxer could have killer instinct once they're going against opposition that's not on par with their level and get them out of there. It's basically where you run a certain set of combinations on your opponent, and that's how you get him out of there. Okay? So that's why they're saying killer instinct. So they say, well, Floyd Mayweather, he ain't got no killer instinct because he don't knock nobody out. He don't put combinations together and get his opponents out of there. Whereas they say Manny Pacquiao, he's lost his killer instinct because he hasn't been able to knock someone out of there by putting his punches together. But what people don't understand is Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao have been putting their punches together. They have been putting combinations together to get their opponents out of there. But the level of opposition has been such that it's been harder to get those opponents out of there. They've been tougher, they're stronger, they can take a punch, they've been heavier, etc. Alright? Another misnomer in boxing is saying that an opponent or a boxer is running. And what we're going to see here is Manny Pacquiao versus Oscar De La Hoya. If I can just get this thing to run for a minute. And Manny Pacquiao, when he was fighting Oscar De La Hoya, he was slipping, he was moving, he was weaving, he was bobbing, and he was pot-shotting Oscar De La Hoya all night long. Same thing with Floyd Mayweather. Here you see he's using his defensive distance. Then he's going to roll. Then he's going to clinch. Then he's going to turn his opponent. He's doing a lot of different things, ladies and gentlemen. Look at him. He's using his foot here, and he's creating distance. And if I could just get this thing to play. Alright, so it's playing right now. See, Manny Pacquiao is doing the very same thing. He's using distance, foot distance. Then he's slipping some of De La Hoya's punches. He's going around the jab. He's slipping, watching him slip, and then use the lead. He's probably going to counter with the hook. There's many different things Manny Pacquiao is doing. He's not running, okay? So that's another misnomer that I hear in boxing. Another misnomer in boxing that I notice is when they talk about a boxer knocked out another boxer, there's a number of factors you have to take into consideration. Weight. Roberto Duran was a guy that walked around at around 200 plus pounds. Okay? When he fought Thomas the Hitman Hearns and got knocked out like lightning in round number 2, everybody was saying, Thomas Hearns has got a great punch. What they forgot was that Roberto Duran came down from super middleweight to middleweight. This guy, he had to lose. Super middleweight is 168 pounds. He was now campaigning at super middleweight. And for this fight, he fought Thomas Hearns at middleweight. He had to lose from 200 pounds to 160 pounds. That's 40 pounds, ladies and gentlemen, which he hadn't done in a long time. And so as a result of that, Roberto Duran lost 40 pounds, and that weight exchange, that weight difference is what caused Thomas Hearns to be able to knock his tail out of there. Okay? Another guy who lost a lot of weight, Oscar De La Hoya fought Manny Pacquiao at 147 pounds. But Oscar at that time had fought at middleweight, became middleweight champion, then got knocked out by Bernard Hopkins. Middleweight is 168 pounds. And at fight night, even when De La Hoya came in on fight night to fight Floyd Mayweather, he was way over 160 pounds. In fact, De La Hoya, just like Canelo Alvarez, he usually would have his fight weight at somewhere around 170 pounds. So you're talking about a 170 pounder, 175 pounder coming in to fight at 147 pounds. That's what he came in on fight night. On fight night, he came in at 147 pounds. And you're telling me that this guy lost more than close to 20, I don't know, 20 something pounds he lost to come into this fight. That's why this dude, he had to get rehydrated with an IV. This is the dude that was fighting Manny Pacquiao. So weight is makes a significant difference in fighters fighting one another. And I wanted to make sure that people understood you must know the conditions a fighter goes through on a fight. Yeah, they signed the contract, but you got to understand, besides a fighter being in their prime, which is another misnomer I want to go into very quickly. If a fighter is performing very well at a level and he's getting older and he's getting wiser, then the fighter adjusts, his style adjusts. So there's no such thing for me, especially if a fighter is winning fights and he's beating people, there's no such thing for me as a fighter not being in their prime. This is when Duran got dropped by Thomas Hearns. Okay? You got to understand, this dude lost 40 pounds, 40 something pounds to fight Tommy Hearns. Okay? So it wasn't so much as Tommy Hearns' punching power as Duran's ability to take a punch in that particular fight. Okay? And what you have to understand also is that nobody has ever knocked out Duran like that ever since. Okay? Iran Barkley, that put Tommy Hearns to sleep and ate all the Tommy Hearns punches, did not put Duran to sleep. He almost did, but he didn't put Duran to sleep. So just think about that, okay? It has to do with weight. And the other most important thing about weight that I almost forgot to do and talk about in their prime is more important than a fighter being in their prime is if they're healthy going into a fight. Shane Mosley versus Floyd Mayweather, he had a problem with his, I think it was his shoulder, his rotator cuff. And I think also in the fight with Manny Pacquiao, he had a problem with his ankle. So when fighters come into fights injured, I think that's much more significant or at a disadvantage because their weight drained. I think that's a bigger problem than whether they're in their prime or not. Okay? In fact, I don't think a fighter is either in his prime or not in his prime. It's whether they're winning their fights and they're adjusting and they have adaptations to the fighter that they have in front of them. And that's basically it. All right? For one-dimensional fighters or fighters who depend on certain things like speed, then, of course, if they don't know how to adapt and adjust and have something to compensate for that, then you can say, well, they're not in their prime because they're one-dimensional. But if the fighter has learned to have extra dimensions to them, you can't say they're not in their prime. Okay? So these are some of the misnomers I hear. I just wanted to just express my opinions on them. I'm not a professional fighter. I'm more of a semi-casual fighter because I don't watch every single boxing competition. I watch major ones and ones that really, really fascinate my interest. But still, at the same time, these are some of the misnomers we need to really talk about in boxing. All right. God bless you all.